Gilbert Gottfried has passed away at age 67. Hi, I'm Johnny Mack. It's about 12:30 in the morning. I was driving. I was about 2.5 hours from where I live, and my phone started blowing up with texts, friends letting me know that Gilbert had passed away. Gilbert was 67. His publicist told the Washington Post that he died of myotonic dystrophy type 2, a form of muscular dystrophy. A statement from the family says, "We are heartbroken to announce the passing of our beloved Gilbert Gottfried after a long illness. In addition to being the most iconic voice in comedy, Gilbert was a wonderful husband, brother, friend, and father to his young children. Although today is a sad day for all of us, please keep laughing as loud as possible in Gilbert's honor." So given that it's after midnight here, what you're about to hear is the normal episode for Wednesday, April 13th. I'm going to catch a couple hours sleep and do a proper tribute late morning that'll come out on this feed. Here comes the regular episode.
Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I didn't find the late night material too strong. I'll just pull out two jokes. The first, Stephen Colbert talking about Donald Trump's support of Dr. Oz. Grandpa thinks his TV friends are his real friends. Then he did a Trump impression, which I won't do. You know who should be Attorney General? That nice lady from Murder, She Wrote. She solved all the murders in Cabot Cove. Also, when are they going to make Pat Sajak Secretary of Transportation? He knows wheels. It's all right. Colbert talking about Don Jr. texting Mark Meadows. Jr. was so confident in the plan that he was concerned that not everyone was looped in, texting, "This is what we need to do. Please read it and please get it to everyone that needs to see it." Oh, I'm pretty sure the FBI has seen it. It's all right. AL as in Alabama, AL.com did a lengthy interview with Bill Burr. I shared it on the subreddit, which is Daily Comedy News. They talked a lot about college football. I'll skip over that. A couple parts that caught my eye. Al.com said, "Some people might think it's okay now to assault a comedian on stage for telling a joke they didn't like." Burr shot that down, said, "No, they're not." "Well, you never know how influenced people be." No. First of all, I love how they're acting like it's the first time it ever happened. This is Burr speaking. "I've had a couple of people come up on stage. One of the funny things about being a comedian is the complete craziness of what you do. I know comics who've been hit by chairs. Jim Jeffries got sucker punched. It just was never done at the Oscars. It's not like that whole Chicken Little hysteria. Now everyone's gonna. They're not. And here's the thing. Say they come at you with a joke or they're trying to govern what you can talk about. Don't talk about this because it'll make people say homophobic. And what I always say to them is, are you homophobic? And they'll be like, no. So what joke could I say that would possibly make you homophobic? You know what I mean? There isn't one. Stand-up doesn't have that level of power. If it did, they wouldn't let us do it. It would be illegal. People hear crap the way they want to hear crap. What makes you the way you are is your parents and childhood and those experiences when you're growing up and what you were taught, way more than going down and watching a comedian for 45 minutes to an hour. I love that bullcrap theory that I can undo somebody's entire upbringing telling one specific joke in the middle of an hour-long set, and all of a sudden somebody's going to be like, "Hey, I was living, let live, and then I heard this joke, and now I'm going to go join the Klan." I think that's ridiculous. Now, let me be clear here. I flipped the order of the interview because this next part is about the South. So I don't want you to think that the interview flowed from a Klan joke into the South. The part about the South was actually the top of the interview, but I wanted to lead off with the cancel culture stuff, okay? So this is out of order here. Al.com asked Bill Burr, "What specifically do you like about traveling through the South? And what do you think Southern crowds bring that might strike you differently?" Burr said, "I like the pace. I think it's beautiful. I love the food. Like Saw's barbecue. Every time I come to town, I always get that stuff. I love old Ford trucks, and I have a 68 Ford F100. A lot of times I try to get off the highway, and I always see these roads I wish I could drive my truck down. What I do for a living is really loud. You want peace and tranquility. I went to a Clemson game one time. We stayed in a house right on this lake, and I was thinking, at the end of all this loud crap, you gotta hype this and promote that. This is a really nice thing to come to. The Appalachian Mountains on the coast of the Carolinas, up into Tennessee and Virginia are beautiful. Also, I think it's just fun to go somewhere and look at it in the opposite perspective. One of the big bullcrap things that white people do is try to act like racist white people are only in the South. They're in the South and Boston, Massachusetts. It's sort of a narrative out there. It's just not been my experience. I feel like the South has been a scapegoat for a lot of that behavior incorrectly. I also find it amazing when they think Southern people are dumb. And it's just like, oh, really? You think Mark Twain was an idiot? That's fascinating. And all the incredible musicians, Leonard Skinner, the Allman Brothers, all that blues music. I think you guys should get way more credit. Also, I was a big stock car fan growing up, and that whole story of how stock car racing came along with moonshiners talking crap about whose car was faster. I also like that I watched stock car racing when it looked like a Buick Regal or a Monte Carlo. I was a big Harry Gant fan back in the day, and I liked Cale Yarborough. I'll pick more at that article tomorrow. TMZ recapped Tom Segura's appearance on the Pardon My Take podcast. Segura was talking about back in 2020, he suffered an injury while playing basketball with Bert Kreischer. Remember that story? Segura ruined his arm and leg while attempting a dunk during a hoop session with Bert Kreischer. He said he couldn't even feel his leg injury because his brain was so focused on his arm. I was just like, oh my God, my arm is so effed, and it was shattered. They gave him severe pain medication along with a nerve blocker in his leg, and that came with some consequences that he shared with the podcast. He said he needed assistance in order to go number 2 at the hospital. Let's move on from that. We don't need too much detail there. Jim Gaffigan spoke to Scary Mommy, your home for comedy news. He said he joked in his act about having 5 young kids and how they made his life hell, but he's taking it all back now. Jim said, I'd like to apologize. I was wrong, dead wrong. Having 5 young children was a beautiful thing. I know that now because I presently have 5 not young children and my life is absolutely horrible. I remember thinking, if we just get these kids out of diapers, our lives will be so easy. I was naive, arrogant, and yet offbeat good looking. I didn't know back then when a stranger would see me with my young kids and volunteer, you're going to miss this. I thought they were weirdos with no boundaries. I didn't realize the stranger was bestowing a warning upon me that every adorable toddler eventually transforms into a tormenting teen executing the karmic revenge of our own parents. As I was recording that sentence, I got an email from Just for Laughs Montreal. Just announced tickets are flying so fast off the shelves, we had to add another show. New show added for John Mulaney, July 28th at 9:45 p.m. Cool. I think that's exactly when I'm planning on going to Montreal. You guys going to Montreal? We should meet up and have a beverage. From page 6, Gossip Corner time, Kim Kardashian admitted that she felt a zing after she kissed Pete Davidson for the first time. When we kissed, I was just like, it was a stage kiss, but it was still a little zing. It wasn't anything like a super crazy feeling. I was just like, And then I was like, wow, I really haven't kissed anyone in 10 years, so maybe I'm just being stupid. And it's nothing. It's just a stage kiss. Our favorite couple enjoyed a night out the other night in L.A., says People magazine. They had dinner at John and Vinny's, a popular Italian restaurant in L.A. Kim shared it on her Instagram with the caption, late night snack. Will Smith suspended by the Academy for 10 years, Ricky Gervais chimed in and said, hopefully he'll only do 6 years with good behavior. The Last Laugh podcast spoke with Ricky's creative partner, Stephen Merchant. Last Laugh said the big debate about The Office in recent years is this question of whether audiences would tolerate a character like David Brent or Michael Scott now, given how politically incorrect and crass they can be. Merchant said at the time there was a lot of conversation about political correctness. That was a real buzzword in the discourse here in the UK. So the idea of what could and couldn't be said was already a conversation. So our show was a comment on that and about somebody who's trying to adapt to this new reality and isn't fundamentally able to. There's a juxtaposition between his innate sensibilities and what he wants to be and how he wants to be perceived. So that was already baked into the DNA of the show. It wasn't like we just went off and brazenly gave him outrageous things to say without giving it some consideration. It was, in a sense, a satire on that kind of person. The Last Laugh podcast said Ricky has always been very outspoken on these issues and free speech and being able to say whatever you want to say in comedy. Do you feel like you two were always on the same page? Merchant, I've always said that I feel Ricky has a little bit more of a punk rock sensibility than I do. He's braver in a sense and a little bit more willing to kick at the system than I am. I'd like to be let into the establishment, please, whereas Ricky's happier to give the finger to the establishment. So I agree with him in the sense that I don't think there should be any limits to free speech, but I do feel, at least from my perspective creatively, that I need to be able to justify the territory that I go into or we go into. And so there were probably occasions where we policed ourselves, but I don't know that it always felt to me. I think it would swing back and forth, really. We made sure there were no rules in the writing room. Sometimes it'd come up with an idea that was hysterical to us, and then both arrive at the thought that it was probably too much. But in the end, we weren't trying to be irresponsible with that show. We felt like we were trying to make a point. Last Laugh. There's a lot of rumors out there about a falling out between the two of you. Maybe because you haven't created a show together in several years. Any truth to that? Ooh, gossip. Merchant said, I'm aware of that, but nope, I get on perfectly well with Ricky. I think we just started doing slightly different projects. I returned to stand-up after a long time. That led to my show, Hello Ladies. Ricky had a couple other projects, one of which was called Derek. So we just got out of sync. We just sort of drifted apart creatively, really, but we never had any big falling out or big argument or anything like that. Last Laugh dug in, but there was a tweet that you sent that appeared to be some sort of swipe at Afterlife. Merchant, well, that's an unfortunate instance, because I've never seen Afterlife. Rick and I used to joke that we never watched each other's stuff, really. We just never paid attention to it, even when we were in the middle of things. From comedy.co.uk, the BBC's first comedy festival will take place in Newcastle, May 11th to the 13th. Day 1 is about commissioning opportunities. Day 2 is industry panels. Day 3 is about breaking into the industry. So this isn't one of those comedy festivals where you go see John Mulaney, who just added a show as I recorded the podcast. No, this is kind of industry stuff. The BBC says some of the biggest names in comedy are confirmed to attend, including a bunch of names that my American audience won't know. Let's see, who would you know? Megan Gantz, Stephen Merchant, hopefully you know who that is. I just talked about him for 5 minutes. And a bunch of other people. They're awesome, trust me. Thursday will be an industry focus day consisting on a range of panels and tests, and Friday the 13th will be sessions for anyone with a new career in TV and comedy and people looking to break into or advance their career in the industry. That sounds pretty cool. The BBC Comedy Festival, Newcastle, May 11th to the 13th. That is your comedy news for today. Follow this podcast for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your shows. If you would like to become a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts for $5 a month, you get early releases and commercial-free releases, and those are one and the same. See you tomorrow.